For the longest while, I've been trying to understand what value really means. And value is so fundamental because without value, you can't create a win-win situation. I know so many of my friends and so many people that I know that don't understand how to go ahead and leverage high and low experiences in order to go ahead and use time, money, or a network in order to get a desired outcome you want so much quicker. And when you understand that there are things that take time, energy, and output, and with the rise of AI nowadays, you could have automations, tools at your fingertips and have thousands of agents that work in your favor. Because media is a very good type of leverage because
I've been
posting
trying to
on
understand.
X, Instagram give you leverage because your one post can contribute to watch time for thousands of people, and it only took like around an hour, and it also goes ahead and scales. But there are also bad types of leverage. The worst type of leverage is labor. And what does that mean? Going ahead and working a 9 to 5 or something that you have to do physically. The worst is probably being a fast food worker where you have to do the same predictive inputs and you get a predictive output. This could be like putting fries in the frying pan, going ahead and flipping the hamburger, something like that, because it's very low leverage. And again, since low leverage is terrible because your one input doesn't generate 10 plus outputs, and it also doesn't go ahead and scale properly when you put like a variable like time. So as more time you put, the more you should automatically get a rainbow of outputs. But certainly with low leverage, you don't get that effect. One really good actionable insight is that there is this one trick called the 80-20 rule. And what that means is that 20% of your inputs contribute to 80% of the outputs you get. So let's say if you're writing something and you wanted to understand about how to retain information a little bit better. So what you can do is you could write with no distractions, no phone next to you, lock it in a box in another room, and write down what you wanted to learn, why you wanted to learn it, and just start asking suggested questions with AI or not with AI. And what that would do is it would prime what that 80% is going to be. This is something super fundamental because you have to understand what the client wants. And this is diving super deep into understanding their pain, their past, their partner, their current situation, because they don't want to be in the same exact spot tomorrow. Their finances, their goals, the timeline, and all of this equate to trust. And trust is something so important because you have to, you have to dig super deep in order to understand how to get the services you are delivering to them. Because this is how you could get the desired situation to the pitch. Actionable insight, what you could do is that it sounds so dumb, when you think about it, but your goal to pitch is it's to become so smooth that the client doesn't even know that you're pitching him. So how do you go ahead and do this? Well, how do you get really smooth at talking? Well, it's to talk to yourself, and it sounds stupid because you probably don't like the sound of your voice. And that is because when you talk, your tone is specific to the median. So like you're talking and it sounds much louder because it's going through bone. And since it's going through bone, it sounds much more better when you're talking. But since the microphone is picking up on this, that's why your voice sounds much different when you're recording it. So because of this, what you could do is you could record your sales calls first, just with a voice memo. And what this allows you to do is it removes all the critical thoughts saying that like, my voice sucks. I hate the sound of my voice. My voice is terrible. Why did I sound like that? I have all these filler words. And all of this all gets removed the next day when we do a video call, strictly going ahead and noticing your body language and your tone, your variance of your speech. All these things all matter. I'm just gonna be straight up. I think that you should always use leverage because not using it is stupid, especially in this modern age because AI, you have automations, you have tools that you can pay $20 and get $50,000 for basically free. And I know that AI is so good now because just last year, the IQ of AI was probably just around 100. And I know, fast forward a year, it's now around 140 IQ. And IQ doesn't really matter, but it's very good because it has specific knowledge to whatever you want to go ahead and learn. And I really believe that becoming a generalist is very important because we need to now do the exact opposite. We need to know things that we don't know in order to understand things that we know. So it's kind of like a expertise paradox, but this is why it's more important to read books. In order to go ahead and create action on this, what you can do is use tools like snob.io, apollo.com, and these platforms allow you to create a sequence, and you could go ahead and create a database for that sequence, and you could send automated emails, and that is when to use leverage because you want to go ahead and multiply your value because we all know that time is fixed and it's a very irreplaceable commodity that we all have. Leverage matters so much nowadays because there are so many people that price terribly. And why is this the case? Well, it's because they don't understand that pricing something from 1 to your 5th sale, you need to go ahead and scale. And scale is fundamental because if you scale incorrectly, then you're gonna be stuck at the wrong career stage. And when you're at this stage, what happens is that you do these same things. Like you're stuck in the same revenue, you're stuck on the same profits, and you don't really go ahead and grow your agency that you're trying to grow. So this happens because you created a big prison unironically. And what happens is that what wasn't supposed to be a 9 to 5 actually is more like the opposite. It's basically a 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. And this is a common trap because it's very important to scale correctly, because the tools that I just said like a minute ago, Apollo and Stav, those sequences are very important because you could send all those emails and it does all the heavy working with the tap of a button. And this is why it's very fundamental to work less while delivering more value, because these tools create the leverage in order to go ahead and do that. I know some of my friends that went ahead and consulted incorrectly, and they charged around $150 per hour instead of hiring people out of seas, and then they unironically were working 60 plus hours, and that's probably more, yes, that's more than a person working a 9 to 5, which is 40 hours a week. So this is bad, and they're also not getting paid overtime and stuff like that because they're a freelancer. So there's obviously issues like this, and that's a very bad downside, because this is a much bigger prison than what they were trying to do. You should always aim for 70% profit margin, and then 30% is the expenses. And then your fifth sale, you should increase the sale by around 25%. People often have very vague indicators of what they're gonna go ahead and achieve. So for instance, like 10% more followers in a month. Well, yes, I mean, that's pretty easy to do. It's just that all these businesses need more than 10% more followers in a month. And how you could go ahead and do this is by building more rapport. And you need to do that by, again, the first thing that I said in this video was to build rapport, and you could do that by paying their pass, because they don't want to be stuck in the same spot tomorrow. And it all comes down to trust. And certainly, because of that, you need to go ahead and give them concrete results that you can actually go ahead and deliver. And since you have their trust now, you can call them up and specify what their individual pain is and deliver that. And then in a month or whatever, you could get paid and then hire people to do the work. So what you can do is you can create a database of specific clients organized by service type and even the industry. And what this would do is this replaces all the abstract ambiguities with concrete language to the client so that he actually knows what is going on. And you could do this by listing 3 specific outcomes with concrete numbers and even time frames, so that there is no guesswork to the person that is interested. Because it's just going to be weird emailing the client and 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, there's no work and you have nothing to prove. And you don't want to be in that awkward spot, especially when you're already paid. Emotions play such a big factor in pitching. And the reason why this is the case, because if you're just very analytical and boring and a very open book, then the person on the other end is going to flake on you. The reason why this is because you don't have anything new on the table to offer. And the thing is, you give off a vibe that you are pitching something that is probably unrelated to what the person wants. And like again, what I said in the first point is it's very easy to pitch a person that is interested, and you are solving specifically the problems that the client needs and delivering him just what he needs in a reasonable time frame and what he wants at a reasonable price, because that's much better than hiring a expensive unleveraged worker. Emotions are a very big factor because you can go ahead and create the right rapport in order to work with the client, because that is what works best for both you and the client. So I know that some of my friends are so smart and they actually can whip up whatever they want and go ahead and start speaking, and just like that, the client on the other hand is hooked, because again, pitching is just straight up all about volume and trying to understand how the person feels so that you can gather rapport and to understand what this person needs and how you can deliver the wants. We all use AI on a very regular basis. We use ChatGPT pretty often because it has new image generation. We use Grok, we use Gemini, you name it. And I have something so cool to go ahead and offer you guys. I made a tool stack so that in the description of this video, you get free prompts in order to go ahead and understand the challenges that the client needs, how to go ahead and pitch better, go ahead and get high leverage applications from Snob, from Apollo, all these platforms that I did mention a couple minutes ago. So, and all of this all contribute to repeatable processes because every client is different. And again, scaling is also such a big indicator of how well you can go ahead and pitch. And it's also knowing that you don't want to go ahead and unironically build a big prison for yourself, because I know that we only have 24 hours in a day, and I know certainly that you want to spend a majority of that learning and doing something else other than the agency. And if you do it right, just like some of the prompts that are in the description, you could go ahead and not create that big prison.